in the house.
Hi. I loved that intros because I was there for some of those pictures.
I know. Welcome everybody to Coffee with Kate and my guest Brooke Sellas from B Squared Media. We're actually having virtual coffee together. It's like it's really happening because we have the same mug.
Yes.
I wonder how that happened.
The UPS fairy.
So we are going to be talking about social media today, paid advertising, organic content. We're going to talk about Brooke's Marketing Companion podcast with Mark Schaefer. She's the co-podcast host with Mark, one of the top-rated podcasts in the world, right?
Yeah, sure. In the world, yeah.
So anyway, the way I know Brooke is I actually met Brooke through our mutual friend, Jen Herman, at Agents of Change, which is a digital marketing conference hosted by Rich Brooks in Portland, Maine. And I believe we met in 2018.
Yes.
That was the first year.
Correct. Yeah.
Yes.
And then we
in
came back the next year.
Yeah, and then we came back the next year and you were a speaker.
That's right. Oh my gosh. Yes. And then we didn't get to do it in 2020 because 2020.
Right. Because of COVID. And I don't know if I don't think he's doing it for this year. I think he's looking into next year. So anyway, so I got to know Brooke as a professional and her expertise in digital marketing. And then we became fast friends because that's just the way Brooke is. And we've had a lot of fun together. So I thank you very much for being here today. And tell us a little bit about B Squared Media before we get into the nitty gritty.
Yes. Well, first of all, thank you so much for having me. I love Kate. Obviously, Kate is also very likable. So anytime Kate needs me, I'm happy to come running. But B Squared Media is a company that I founded. We're actually turned 9 this month. So we turned 9 in May of this year. And we're a social first company. So we do done for you social media management. We do advertising, not just social, but also search. And then we do social first customer care, which is where brands who have a high volume of customer support needs through social media outsource that to us because it's quite a lot for people who only work Monday through Friday.
Right. Tell us, are you okay with sharing with who a few of your clients are? Because I know you work with a lot of companies and enterprise level type clients.
Yeah, sure. So I can say some and not others,
right?
NDAs. But so we work with Brother Internationals, one of our customer care clients.
As in the computers and printers and stuff, right?
Yeah, printers, label makers, sewing machines. We work with them on social listening and customer care. We have a large global appliance brand who I can't say the brand, but we work on their US side again for customer care and social listening. And then we just actually closed yesterday a big shoe brand and we're helping them with their social listening and potentially moving into customer care with them as well. So, I mean, it's usually just, again, these people who have a high amount of volume, millennials, Gen Z, these up and coming, even Gen X, me, right? Yeah. We don't typically want to go to social media or the phone anymore. We just go to Twitter and we start yelling in the hopes that someone will help us. So. Exactly.
Well, that was a nice segue because the first thing I wanted to talk about, because one of the things I love, if you go to Brooke's homepage, bsquared.media, her tagline is there and it's think conversation, not campaign. So share with us the meaning behind that, just sort of the snapshot meaning behind that. But what you also really focus on, what you mentioned already, is customer care. Mm-hmm. So talk about what think conversation, not campaign means, and then customer care from the standpoint of how you help people with their customer care and define that for us.
Yeah. So think conversation, not campaign happened before I even owned the company, quite honestly. I was working at another company as the marketing and social media director. And I had used that little pithy tagline in a presentation. And I was like, ooh, there's a there. And then a year later, I ended up starting B Squared. And we, it's kind of a non-sexy story, but you can't trademark B Squared Media because there's a B, there's a squared, and there's a media, and all of those are open for common use. So I decided to instead trademark the tagline, which is think conversation, not campaign.
Smart move.
Yeah, right. As someone who's been in sales and marketing for 20 plus years, I feel like And I think this is true now that we tend to get focused on the return on investment and, ROAS, return on ad spend, which are all very important. But at the end of the day, we're not focused enough on the customer who is responsible for any of us being in business in the first place, right? Without the customer, the campaign wouldn't exist. The revenue wouldn't exist. And so I kind of want to strip it back a little bit and get to a place where you focus on the customer, which can then lead to outcomes with your campaign. Same with customer care. So what we started to realize through our social media work was that, again, we wanted to focus on the customer, but we realized the customer is really trying to become the customer or trying to come into your social media sphere as a brand or a company well before they buy, right?
Right.
They're asking questions from peers about your brand. They're talking to the brand, oftentimes asking, for information about supporting that purchase.
Yes.
And then there's, obviously then they become a customer, a part of the community, but then there's also advocacy and loyalty and loyalty programs that come after purchase or post-purchase. So what we've tried to do is
keep the touch, right? To keep the touch with the customer, right?
You have to be in touch with your audience from beginning to end. So before they're even born, right? As a customer to the end. So we're with customer care trying to map customer care. So any interaction, proactive interaction with the customer from beginning to end and around and around. So mapping that customer care, those customer care touch points to the customer journey.
So what would be some customer care tools? Like, would it be the chat? Like if you're in a website and there's that little icon in the lower right, that little bubble, is that something? I mean, I don't know for sure. So I'm just kind of throwing that out there. Is that
absolutely.
Okay.
Any way in which you communicate with your customer is a place where customer care would happen. And I think that's one of, the most important parts is figuring out where do your customers want to talk to you? We see increasingly with younger generations, they want to do that through social media, but it could be through email. It could still be through phone. It could be through a chatbot on the website or a live chat on the website. So it's really, first and foremost, understanding where your customers and would-be customers want to connect with you, and then putting some focus and effort into those mediums.
What would you say most people are using, from the standpoint of that website? You said a chat bot and then you said a live chat. What's the difference?
Yeah, so a chat bot is basically an automated system through artificial intelligence that answers questions. You build out a conversation workflow, right? So the human's not really involved. There obviously should always, this is my advice, right? Golden nugget. There should always be an option to get a human involved.
Right.
Because
I would think that'd be very important, because some people know what those chatbots are like and they're there to answer a basic question. And usually your question's not the basic question.
Yeah. What we've actually found with our enterprise clients, which is why they use us for customer care, is they're way too nuanced for a chatbot. Yeah. It's way too complex. They have product lines that are, hundreds sometimes. So a chatbot wouldn't cover it. But say you're a small business and you just don't have the, resources or person to be available all the time on social, you could absolutely put together a chatbot to answer some of those most frequently asked questions and then have an option for a human to get involved. Live chat is where somebody comes on your website and is live chatting with someone from support. So a customer care agent. So
you help implement those tools then?
Yeah, we help people implement those tools, but the majority of what we do is social first. So we take care of Facebook or Instagram or Twitter or LinkedIn or all of the above, either during business hours, Monday through Friday, or a lot of times internal customer support handles that. And then we get placed in before hours, after hours, Monday through Friday, Saturdays and Sundays, and then holidays.
Okay. So if you're just joining us, we're talking with Brooke Sellas from B Squared Media, and we're talking about customer care. We even got into chatbots a little bit, live chat, the kinds of tools that people can incorporate, social first. If you have any questions about any of those things, please put them in the comments and we will ask Brooke your question, and we will be here for quite a little while longer. So we're just getting started. So where does the data stuff come into all of what you do? I mean, data is so important. And like you said at the beginning, the ROI and the ROA are important, but it's still that touch component. However, you still need data. Where does that fit in?
Yeah. So what we've realized, we beta tested our customer care service for 2 years before we ever brought it to market to really understand what we were trying to do. And what we realized was that customer support in itself, which is why we don't use that term, that's why we changed it to customer care, is very reactive, right? And so what that means is when Kate reaches out to Brooke's shoe shop about her shoes and she's unhappy, she's tagging, as if she's using social and saying, Brooke's shoe shop, ugh, my shoes came and I hate this color. On the website, they looked neon green and then I got them and they're hunter green. Not cool. I want neon green. But that's very reactive. That's important. We want to get back to Kate and talk to her about the green of the shoes and how we can help. But right, it's a one-off transaction. It may or may not happen again with Kate.
Right.
It's oftentimes built on negative sentiment, which is a data point that we would receive, right? But that's oftentimes built in a reactionary, negative way. To become proactive with all of the data and the things that we're trying to do with customer care, we use social listening. Okay. So social listening tools allow us to go out into the interwebs and actually listen for certain keywords and keyword phrases around our brand, around our industry, around our competitors, so that we can start to understand different data points and become proactive, like joining conversations that are happening already, or understanding what is or isn't working for our top competitors' campaigns so that we can then differentiate our own campaigns. A lot of times it's finding pain points that clients or customers are having without tagging you. Okay. So, that peer-to-peer conversation is so important on social. I mean, that's what we do on social media. Right. And if we think conversation and we use social listening to proactively listen in and then when appropriate, join those conversations, you'd be surprised at what you can find. I mean, we've fixed product development issues. We've fixed software bug issues for clients. This is all just based on social listening.
Okay. All right. So social listening, what kind of tools are you doing that? So obviously there's a market research component where you're just doing market research, but you must also obviously be using social media tools. Like, for example, when you talk about social listening, and a lot of people are told, well, if you need help because you can't get into your LinkedIn profile, then tweet at LinkedIn support or LinkedIn help on Twitter to get them to pay attention to you. And that's what a lot of people do now. Is that a component of what you're doing too, or is there a better way or another way?
Yeah, I would say, we use social listening as like the catch-all, right? Because it's both allowing us to get in front of those proactive things plus the reactive things. And then it's helping inform us on very broad areas. So starting with like brand, right? And then starting with industry and then starting with competitors. And then with social listening, you can actually go super duper nuanced. And, if you're familiar with the term like a Boolean search.
Boolean search, yes.
Yeah, it allows you to kind of add in your queries and or. So you can, go as deep as a hashtag or a word or a product, a specific.
Mm-hmm. Uh-oh. We just lost you. Hang on a minute, Brooke. I'm trying to.
Weird.
That was weird.
Sorry. Hi.
That's okay. You were doing listening, going like this, and all of a sudden I'm like, jazz hands.
Jazz hands.
So back up just about 30 seconds.
Yeah, I was just saying, it allows you to go from those really broad sections down to really deep and niche sections, and it brings all of that data back in real time. And so this is where people say like, oh, well, software is smarter than the human or AI is smarter than the human. No, because the marketer, the human, the team still has to take all of that data, decipher what it means, and then you have to create the creative solution that's meeting that customer pain point or solving that customer pain point.
Right.
Does that make sense?
Yes, it does. Yes, it does. Bottom line is the human touch still matters.
It matters. I mean, we really don't use a lot of bots because, like I said, with the clientele that we're working with, it's too nuanced. I mean, the conversation workflow with these bots would be mind-boggling, and it still probably wouldn't get to the crux of answering for an example, with Brother, we have people coming to us with things like, I broke my sewing needle in the XYZ sewing machine and I can't get it out pressing the, release button on the blah, blah, blah. It's super technical.
Right.
So it would nearly be impossible to answer that with a bot.
Right. Gotcha. I find this so fascinating because it's so, in some ways it's so scientific, but yet that it's also underlining that the human piece is still just has to be there.
Yeah.
I can't stand it when I get any kind of a bot, period. I don't care if it's from somebody who is a one woman or one man show, like a solo entrepreneur and they are their brand and they're putting stuff out there, or if it's the giant company. The other day I got a robotic call from a person that used to be a coach of mine about 3 years ago. And I thought it was actually the person because it's their phone number. And I picked it up and he's like, hi, it's so-and-so calling. And I'm wanting to know if you want to come to this retreat. And I am like, wow, like I've had a personal relationship with you for a 1-year coaching thing. And now I'm getting like a robotic message. And I answered
his voice?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Wow.
Yeah. And it was totally recorded and everything. It was really, and I'm just thinking, so let me ask you this question. Given what we've just been through with the pandemic, I would think that the human component piece is more important than ever when it comes to customer care. Yeah. Would you agree, disagree, see a difference? What have you noticed?
Yeah, people are more angry.
Yeah.
Or less forgiving. And I think that kind of finesse takes a human. A machine has a much harder time. Can I say the S word?
Yes.
Okay. So if I'm a bot, the machine would have a hard time discerning between this is shit, and this is the shit.
Yeah.
Right?
Oh, right.
Sentiment is lost a lot of times on AI, whereas humans, not always, but most of the time we can pick up that tone through the text that's coming through. So yeah, I mean, in my opinion, especially with how upset people have been lately, I think the human element is more important than ever.
And I think it's here to stay. Would you agree with that?
I agree. I know there's going to be a lot of people who disagree with me. One of my great friends, Christopher Penn, we disagree a lot on AI and humans, but I respect his opinion. I think he respects mine. And I just think even if we get away from it for a short amount of time, because it's the shiny object, right? And it does allow us to be way more efficient and do things at a much lower cost, we'll never be like, no, I don't want to talk to a human. Well,
in the words of your business partner and podcast co-host, Mark Schaefer, it's always stuck in my head. And I think it's from the Marketing Rebellion book, was the most human company wins.
Yep, that's exactly right. Yes. And that is, I think that tagline, along with like Think Conversation, Not Campaign, those things like mesh together. What we're saying is like, hey, people matter. And they will continue to matter. And everything we do as marketers and even salespeople needs to revolve around the people.
Right. All right. So anybody listening, this is your chance to ask Brooke any questions you might have. But we're going to go in a little further now. So now I want to talk about, switch gears and talk a little bit. It's almost like Clubhouse. Let's reset the room, but I'm not on Clubhouse. Not on Clubhouse right now. So let's talk about paid advertising. So first share with me, or share with everybody, what type of paid advertising are you working on with your clients?
So we do obviously the social advertising. So just on the main channels, we're not into like TikTok or Snapchat.
Yeah, I mean, are you doing like Facebook ads?
Yeah, Facebook ads.
So like in Google ads? I mean,
Google ads, yeah. We do search.
Gotcha.
We also do some niche ad placements. So we work with like programmatic advertising for some of our clients, which is where essentially, again, you're using AI to help you find media buys at the lowest cost. We're doing like contextual advertising, which is really important right now with third-party cookies going away. I'm sure everybody's heard, if you do any sort of advertising, that Google is removing third-party cookies. And essentially, the very quick definition is first-party data you own. If I go to Kate's website and I sign up for her newsletter, she owns my name and email address. That is her first-party data, and you need that. And if you doing that, I would suggest you start right now.
Growing your list, basically.
Like as soon as this is over, go start growing that list. Yeah. Second party data would be like if Kate and I decided to do an event together. So she would share her list with me and I would share my list with her and we're co-marketing together. That's second party data. Third party data is used a lot of times with advertising through things like interests, right? So if I'm targeting Kate with an ad through retargeting, that's where like Facebook would come through. I would put a pixel on my B Squared Media website. And when
pixel's kind of like a tag for those people who might not know.
Yeah,
it's like a tag in the back end, right?
Yeah, a little snippet of code that goes in your website header. And if Kate came to, and I didn't know Kate, right? We're pretending like I don't know Kate, but she came to the B Squared Media website, that Facebook pixel would say, oh, Kate has a Facebook page. And it would pull her information down from that pixel into a list. When we talk about retargeting, so like lookalike audiences and whatnot, and interest targeting. So if I'm targeting Brooke shoes again, and I'm looking for people like Kate who have visited maybe some of my competitor websites, that comes from third-party data. I'm getting that data from the advertising platform or from a pixel from an advertising tool. That's what's going away. Okay. So retargeting, also, if you're unfamiliar, is where most marketers make their money. That's where, I mean, it oftentimes has like a 4-to-1 result versus just like picking an audience, cold, just from like some of the targeting parameters that have.
So like if I'm looking at Facebook on my phone and there's an ad for some women's apparel and I click on it, I'm going to end up seeing that thing all over the place for the next like day or so.
Yes.
That's because there's a pixel.
Mm-hmm. Okay. And then have you noticed if you click on the women's apparel ad on Facebook or Instagram, you also see similar ads get shown to you the next couple of days or so? That is interest-based targeting. That is third-party
interest-based. Okay.
And that is what is going away. So, it's a scary time for.
When you say going away, are you making reference to like, for example, the iOS update for people who have iPhones?
That's a whole other thing. But
okay, so that's like a whole. So when you say it's going away, what do you mean again, like in a 101 level sense?
So Google has said, and you can just Google this, but third-party cookies, they're removing third-party cookie data in 2022. So we have a year. Now, my guess is they'll come up with something else. There's already tools like Stack Adapt is what we use for our programmatic buys, who allow us to do like contextual advertising and geo-targeting advertising that doesn't use third-party data, right? You can probably through Facebook and maybe your email provider do click behavior targeting. So when people click on something in your email, you can add them to a list or something. There are going to be workarounds. So I don't want people to freak out. However, it's going to be extremely disruptive. Like I want people to also take it seriously. Right.
Yeah. I mean, I've been reading about it. It's not my world and it's a little bit over my head, but I can see that this is making all of my friends and colleagues in the Facebook advertising world pull out their hair a little bit right now.
Yes. Facebook, hasn't been fun for a while now for advertisers. And when Apple versus Facebook, and now Google coming up with something, and now then Amazon was saying they're going to do something similar to Google. So ultimately what it comes down to, if you think about it, right? A lot of people are like, oh, they're just protecting my privacy as a consumer. Okay, let me set that record straight, because think about who owns the most first-party data. Google, Facebook. Yeah. They're doing this to compete with each other, right? Not for us. They're pretending like it's for our privacy, but it's not.
That's an interesting insight, actually, and I would agree that that's probably pretty likely.
Yeah, they're not worried about it.
Kind of ironic, isn't it, when you think about and you do research on like the Google algorithm and from the standpoint of content, and Google's like, make sure it's unique, compelling, interesting, and it's of service to people. And so that's like, they want you to produce content and they'll reward you by showing you in search if you do that. And then when you talk about like what you're talking about right now from the targeting standpoint, they're pretending it's about the person and it's actually really not.
Yeah. Well,
a bit of irony there.
Google owns like 40% of the search too.
Yeah.
So when you're searching and some of the stuff that's popping up in those top spots, like Google owns
Right.
that stuff.
Right.
So I mean,
yeah, right.
We just have to realize we're just but small ants in the big, world of businesses like Google, Facebook, Amazon.
Let's talk about paid advertising in sort of synergy with organic. Still organic still matters, like organic content still matters. So is there a sort of like a balance or a formula or some such where it's like and it also depends on the size of your business. I get that. So the more enterprise level clients are going to be doing more paid, but still need organic. So maybe answer the question in the context of the smaller business owner, not necessarily the solo entrepreneur, but somebody who's not necessarily brother, but who isn't like me, somewhere in between.
Yeah. So, I mean, we help a lot of smaller companies too, especially on the paid media and advertising side. And I'll tell you from like the very beginning, when someone first comes and talks to me, a lot of times they say they're looking for organic social media help. And my number one question is, what business outcome are you trying to achieve with your organic social media? And like literally 8 times out of 10, they'll say more sales or more leads. And I'm like, that's not organic
right.
social media.
Right.
So the way I describe it in this process is organic social media is important. It's like having your website, but meeting the consumers where they are. Again, you just are there, right? Always kind of like having this billboard for yourself organically. That's where the conversation should be happening with your community, with your current customers, with those advocates and whatnot. But it's a very long game to say that you will receive leads or sales from organic social media.
Right.
If you're looking to play the short game, again, so like 8 out of 10 people are saying, I need leads today.
Right.
That is paid media. And they work really well in tandem together, because if you think about like the traditional funnel, right? Awareness, and if we're going towards like nurture, decision in the middle to conversion, both social, organically, and paid help you with that awareness part, and both help you with nurture. But if you need to get to conversions or leads quickly, it's going to be very hard to get to the bottom of the funnel with just organic social media. So using both can help you get to the return on investment or return on ad spend.
Right. Well, what's interesting when you describe that, and I'm not trying to make this about me, but here's an interesting little conundrum I find myself in. So about a year ago, when I was going to be doing some webinar, I was going to be doing a full day workshop, and it was going to be about personal branding and LinkedIn. Mm-hmm. And it was because I was going to be teaching people about strategies for LinkedIn. You've heard me talk. So I wanted to create ads.
Page.
What?
Giving Kate a shout out. She's probably going to get embarrassed, but Kate totally helped me with my LinkedIn. It was bad. It was bad. And I got with Kate, and now it's amazing. So that's.
Well, thank you for that, Brooke. It was fun working with you. But so what I did is I thought, you know what? I'm going to create some paid ads on LinkedIn. Mm-hmm. So I created them, and then, it goes in for review. And then, I don't know, 24, 36 hours later, I get a response saying it's not approved. And so but it doesn't give me why. Mm-hmm. So I kind of tweak it. I'm like, I don't know if maybe the copy was too long. So I tweak it again. And then I get another thing saying not approved. And then I wrote back and I'm like, can you give me some help here? Like, why? And they said, because you're mentioning LinkedIn. And so I reached out to AJ Wilcox, who is the LinkedIn ads guy in the world. And I'm like, he's like, oh my God, I've never had this happen. Like this is happening. And so they basically said something like, you can say what you need to say, but you can't mention LinkedIn. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, well, that's, I can't just say personal branding, because it's personal branding as a platform foundation to positioning yourself using your LinkedIn profile. And that's the focus of what I do. So basically doing some research, it's like, if I am ever going to buy an ad on LinkedIn about what I do with LinkedIn, I can never mention LinkedIn, period.
Can you say the world's most professional social media platform?
Maybe, but it's kind of like,
I know.
But as an ad for what I do, that's pretty darn vague.
Same. I mean, but these rules exist across platforms, and it's gotten harder and harder in certain sectors too. So, like medical, very difficult. Real estate, very difficult. Staffing, very difficult.
Yeah.
Politics, nearly impossible.
Yeah, right.
So, I mean, and that happened kind of first on Facebook. It's happening now on Google. It took us like 4 different attempts to get some realty ads approved on Google because of fair housing.
Yeah, right.
So, I mean, I feel like, and tell me if I'm wrong, Kate, like where you're going with this is, advertising used to be one of those things that absolutely, I feel like if you took a few courses or watched a few videos, you could do yourself as a small business owner. It's almost gotten to the point where they've taken that away, which sucks. I don't like that, even though we offer the service.
Right.
Unfair of Facebook to make it that difficult that you can't do it on your own. I don't like that at all.
So I guess if it comes down to it, if I just, because I'm growing my business, I'm going to be launching an e-course for sale. I'm not doing all the funnel stuff. I'm just going to offer it for sale. If people want to buy it, they can buy it, you know. But if I'm going to do ads to get traction for it, then I'm probably going to be advertising only on Facebook. And you know what's going to happen? Just like the other people who do LinkedIn stuff, who advertise on Facebook, then you get the trolls on your ad going, oh, well, that's interesting. Why are you advertising your LinkedIn service on Facebook?
Yeah. Oh, trolls on the
So then you get that kind. I've seen that happen with people who are legit LinkedIn experts who do similar work as me, advertising something on Facebook, and then you get the people going, ha ha ha, if LinkedIn's so great, why are you advertising on Facebook? Not knowing what's behind it.
Trolls are everywhere.
Yes, they are.
Ads.
Sadly.
Yeah, sadly.
That's another whole separate conversation, right?
Yeah, well, and I will give you a tool though. There's a tool called, I think it's called Click Ease.
Click Ease, like click, just like A-S-E?
E-A-S-E. Click Ease, I think, is the tool. And they essentially help you try to fight some of that spam. So like, let's say we've actually had this problem with one of our clients before. Let's say you're running ads and your competitor sees them, which they probably will, and they just keep clicking right to run up the cost per click on your ads. Believe me, this actually happens. I know it sounds crazy, but this is competitor warfare, and advertising is a real thing.
Right.
This tool helps. It has AI that uses algorithms to help spot trolls, spam houses, Russian bots or whatever.
Yeah, right.
And also potentially competitors who are trying to bid up your cost per click.
Okay.
Wow. Tool that can help you combat some of that on your.
That's a great tip. Thanks for sharing that.
You're welcome.
All right. So now we're going to switch gears a little bit again. So speaking of social media, what do you see as like a hot thing in social media right now? Like something that's really killing it? Maybe not necessarily a shiny object, but what do you see right now? It's either a trend or a tool or something that social media is doing. What in your mind, if you said like what's hot right now in social media, what would it be in your opinion?
I think it ties into what we've already been talking about with third-party data going away. Your first-party data, right, is going to become the most important driving force for marketers from this second through to when this thing happens in 2022. So for me, if you're in marketing and you're using social media, you need to be focusing on social intelligence and social data. I don't care how you collect it. I don't care if it's manually in a spreadsheet, not the smartest way, but hey,
however you're comfortable doing it.
Yeah, whatever your budget can afford, your time can afford, start collecting that social data, because what we are seeing is that more and more consumers want to connect with brands and consumers through social, not through email, not through phone, not through TV. Email is still high up there, but social's right behind it. You need to use that think conversation mentality and start collecting social data and social intelligence from your social channels to help pad your first party data. It's going to be so important.
So if it's not your list and email that's the top, but it's still up there, then can you give us like a hard, like what would be a way to do that? So like, are you talking about like, if I'm talking with people in a thread on a LinkedIn post, are you talking like that literal?
Yeah.
If I'm conversing or I've answered somebody's question and I see their name is, Sally Smith, reach out to Sally Smith through LinkedIn and make that connection.
Yeah.
Personally, I mean, are you getting like that down in the weeds?
That granular. Now, the tools will help you with this, but like, let's just pretend, right? Let's go super basic. We don't have any tools. We're just using the native platforms.
Gotcha.
And Sally, what was Sally's name? Sally Smith.
Sally Smith.
Because
there's only one of them in the world, I'm sure.
Watching this today, right? She's watching this live stream, and she says to you in the comment stream, Kate, oh my gosh, I didn't know you were coming out with a course. What course? And you're like, oh, the name of the course. And she's like, oh my gosh, that sounds so interesting. If it were me, okay, if I had just a spreadsheet, I would put Sally Smith's name on it, make sure we are connected on LinkedIn, grab any sort of email information I can, reach out to Sally and be like, hey, so glad that you're interested in the course. Would you mind if I emailed you when it's ready? She says yes. You've got permission now to email Sally Smith about the course. Do not add her to your master list.
No, don't. Because that goes against all the, right.
Or if you do have a tool, even if it's just a CRM, a basic CRM, go put Sally Smith into that CRM with all that information and tag her with the name of the course. So that you now know when you're sending out marketing messages about this course, you have Sally Smith's first party information and she's been added. And that happens through social, right?
Yes.
She doesn't come to your website and sign up for anything.
Right.
So...
Well, a lot of times people do go, and I have like a subscribe thing on my website. And so people who sometimes make a connection with me, whether they've heard me on Clubhouse, for example, or they've heard me on doing this, they'll connect me on LinkedIn, and then they'll go to my website. And it's like within a day, I'll get them opting in to my website. So that's been working well. So those are other tools.
Interest data that we just talked about was going away. If you're using social listening, you can go, look at your audience as a whole and the people who are talking about your brand as a whole. And guess what information you can see there? Conversation clusters, conversation topics, themes, interests of your audience.
Right.
Even that, though that's going away through some of the third-party tools, you can bring that information down from like a social listening tool.
Right.
And have interest data and know how to market to your groups. If you're a movie theater, maybe your people are also really interested in comic books. You can use that information that you're getting from the conversations to utilize for any sort of paid media in the future versus having to be like, oh no, the tool's not here and now I don't know what to do.
Okay, well, that's super helpful. Let's touch on email lists for a second and email. So what would you say are today's sort of best practices with regard to email? So I've got I've gone through trying to grow my list, and then I just completely ignore it because I hear that email is dead, and then I just don't do anything, or I just get lazy, I'll admit. So I've got a list of like 1,000, which is not big.
No,
it's not bad.
Because I'm like you. I hate email. But
I do too.
I'm like, oh my God, email.
And every marketer I talk to, really marketers I respect, I'm not just saying anybody, say that email is not dead. So from what you do, what is the best practice then with people emailing? So like I'm thinking about starting it back up again and maybe doing like, one a month, but not as a newsletter. I think the newsletter thing is sort of passe. It's got to be really about a certain topic. And it should be it could be your blog, I guess, whatever. So you tell me, what's the best practice for people who are emailing today?
Here's how we do it. I'm not saying this is the best practice.
Yeah,
I got to be honest here. Like I'm with you. I'm like, I've ignored email for like 9 years. And now I'm like, oh, shoot. I got to really pay attention to email. So I'll tell you what we do. We put out a weekly blog post on our site. We offer a VIP blog email sign up. And what happens is we not only send you that blog post by email, we also send you a gift based on the theme of the email or the topic of the blog. Sorry. So like if we're talking about social listening, maybe I send you Sprout Social's latest social listening report, no download required, no email required. Here it is for you in PDF form. Right? Yeah. So we have people sign up for that list. That's obviously segmented. I don't send them also then my newsletter or anything. I'm very particular about keeping things clean and segmented.
Right.
On the home page of our site, you can sign up for our newsletter, which comes out monthly. And that's where we kind of give a recap of the theme for the month. We mention anything that's going on with the company, just like a typical newsletter.
Right.
And then quarterly, Mark Schaefer and I have teamed up to do what we call the B Notes newsletter. And that's where we really focus on customer care because he and I both think this is customer care will be, if not already, the future of organic social media. So we really kind of focus that quarterly newsletter on customer care and what's happening in the space.
Okay.
So it's weekly, monthly, quarterly. We have this sign up right there on our site. And as people come through the funnel, whether it's through social, through the website, through a form, whatever it may be, through a paid piece of paid media, we use a CRM and automation system to tag those people very specifically with their interests, right?
Okay. Yes.
So if I know that somebody came through we have a free customer care quiz on our website. If they took that customer care quiz and I know then that they're interested in customer care, when I do a webinar or if I come out with a white paper or whatever it may be, I will email that group of people with the customer care information.
Okay. That's helpful. Yeah, I think I'm going to get back into it. When I've done it, even though I felt oogie about it.
No, I know.
I always get good feedback, or I get a lead, or I get somebody who I worked with 3 years ago who's like, oh my gosh, just wanted to let you know that when we worked together, this happened, and what else are you offering, kind of thing. So I think that we've got to get out of our own way sometimes. Just because we don't like it doesn't mean that other people don't like it. And I think if you don't abuse it, you don't abuse how much you reach out to them, I think that most people will be happy to hear from you. And if you're giving them something of value that's going to help them with their pain point, then that's even better.
Yeah, that's what I always try to that's why we do the gift, right? You can go to the blog, you can get it on your own without receiving another email. So the give me or the carrot, right?
I do some of that. I mean, of course, in my community, being a LinkedIn coach, trainer, whatever you want to call me, not affiliated with LinkedIn corporate at all, but we have our own community of all of us, and we're all over the world. And some of the people that are in there are really, truly, and I mean this with all due respect, are total data wonks, A/B testers up the wazoo, and then they'll share a report about the LinkedIn algorithm or something, or about how hashtags are being used on LinkedIn in 2021. Mm-hmm. And so whenever those come out, they're always gold nuggets to me.
Yes.
And so what I've done is I've reached out to the author, the creator of that, and I'm saying, is it okay if I send out an email to my people tagging you with your website and your paper, because it's so good, I want to help people. And everybody has been absolutely, thank you so much.
Yeah.
So, that's the other thing. It doesn't necessarily, an email doesn't always have to be something that just you do. You can be the sharer of other people's stuff beyond just a post on Facebook or LinkedIn or Instagram or whatever. Mm-hmm. Share their report, but always ask permission and always make sure you get attribution and links to them. I mean, you got to err on the side of caution with that for sure.
All of the email newsletters I signed up to receive from the marketing industry, Jay Bear, Mark, Chris Pitt, and Hanley.
Yep.
All of their stuff shares other people's stuff.
Yeah, all of them.
So I think, and this is my own pep talk too. It doesn't have to be this crazy amazing. I mean, you read if you get Anne Hanley's.
I don't actually, but I'm gonna, now that you mentioned it, I should. I'll bet it's really good.
You read hers and you're like, I cannot do this. I have no answer.
You know who I just signed up for? Our mutual friend and colleague, Jen Herman. She's just started putting out a newsletter for Instagram stuff, which is, and it's really good.
I love her Instagram tips. So I signed up as well because she, they keep me on top of things.
Right.
Anne is a beautiful writer and always so creative. And you look at hers and you're like, oh my God, I am no Anne Hanley. But remember that they signed up because they already see some sort of value in what you do and what you offer. Right. So as long as you continue to ask the so what and offer those little pieces of value, I think you'll be okay. And you can share other people's stuff.
Oh, we got my Paula Diaco. She's a book coach. Anne's newsletter is the best. Model yours after hers.
Yeah.
Thanks for that, Paula. Thanks for tuning in, Paula. All right. So let's, as we wind down here, and I also want to just, as a shout out, as you know, Brooke, most people who end up watching this usually watch it on replay. Mm-hmm. And I am now, because of my wonderful new VA, all of my Coffee with Kates are going to be archived on my YouTube channel and on my website. So we're going to be starting to do transcripts of shows too, which will be awesome. So look for us there. But if you have any questions, even if you're watching the replay, put them in the comments, whether you're on Facebook or LinkedIn. Tag me or tag Brooke, and we'll be sure to answer your question going forward. But let's talk now about the Marketing Companion podcast that you do with Mark Schaefer. I got to tell a quick little story. So when we were at the last Agents of Change conference in Portland in 2019, Mark Schaefer was going to be the keynote speaker, and I was like giddy with, oh my God, because I've been following Mark and reading his Grow business blog for years, and so I was super excited. And I already knew Brooke, but I didn't know Brooke and Mark were like, buddies and colleagues. So we get there, Brooke's there, and we're like, oh, finally seeing each other after a year. And then Mark's there, and then like we end up going out, and like Mark's coming along, and I'm like the little star-eyed, little fan, like, oh my God, Mark Schaefer's at the bar with us.
Oh my God, that's the night Mark and I had a dance off.
Yes, it was. In that little speakeasy bar in downtown Portland. And at any rate, I can't remember who it was, if it was you or Rich, and said something about, like I said, is he nice? Can I talk to him? I mean, like, I just got so goofy about it. And was it you or Rich that said he's like the Mr. Rogers of social media? It was you. Yeah. And I'm like, that. And so then I kind of got to know him, and he hung out. He came out, we were there for 3-4 days. And one morning when I was eating breakfast, he was all by himself, and I said hello, and he started asking me questions, and an hour later he'd given me like 3 gems that I walked away from. And I'm like, you know what? Brooke is right. You are the Mr. Rogers of social media. We follow these people in our little nerd social media world, and they become like a celebrity to us in some ways. And then when you finally get to meet them after you've read their stuff and everything, and you respect them so well for their knowledge, it's really cool. I mean, that's one thing I love about this digital marketing world, is that most of all these people are just super down to earth, regular average people like we are, and always willing and generous with their knowledge. And so, and then Paula just made another comment. Anna's a writer's writer. So Paula is a writer and a book coach.
Yeah, Anne is a writer's writer. She's a great writer.
Yeah, she is. So let's go back to Marketing Companion podcast. So the Marketing Companion podcast was Mark was doing with another guy. I've forgotten his name now.
Tom Webster.
Right. And then when he left, Mark invited you.
Yeah, which was
the story from there.
Yeah. So we had worked together. Gosh, Mark and I met, I want to say like around 2015 or so. So like 3 years into my journey with B Squared. And we had worked on a few projects together. I had helped him a little bit with the book previous to Marketing Rebellion, which was Content Code. He reached out to me, and he was like, Tom is retiring from the podcast, and I'm looking for a new co-host, and I want to have you come do like an interview. Basically, we're going to do a show together, and we'll see how it goes. And I was like, oh. Yeah. And I hate my voice, by the way. Like, I have like a high-pitched baby voice. So I was like, oh my God, never going to work. I have the worst voice for like radio.
No, you don't.
I don't know how. You'll have to ask Mark, but somehow.
Wait, can I pause you? Let's do a new hashtag, high-pitched baby voice.
High-pitched baby voice. I swear, animals and children that love me, and it's because of my like high-pitched baby voice. I did the interview. He picked me, and we've been doing the podcast now, for like 2 or 3 years.
Yeah.
Yeah,
you have.
Yeah.
I was listening to you guys a lot during lockdown, quarantine, whatever.
Oh, thank you. Thank you for that.
And I have, sometimes I just don't get to listen to the whole thing. I listened to your little test run on Clubhouse. Have you guys continued doing that with going to Clubhouse too?
We did it a few times, and then we kind of discontinued the test. I mean, I think, for me personally, so Mark and I do disagree, by the way. And when we disagree, that's like actual real life. And people, we don't we don't plan the show. We don't plan what we're going to talk about. We don't talk about it previous to the show. And so when you hear us disagree on the show, like we're actually disagreeing. And he and I had a disagreement about Clubhouse. I was like, I'm so tired of like the shiny object syndrome. I cannot handle one more platform. And he was like, please, 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 let's just do it as a test. And I was like, oh, fine, you win. It wasn't bad.
No, it wasn't bad because I listened to it. It wasn't bad at all. It was good.
There was no like je ne sais quoi. Like there was no wow factor for me to continue. And I guess he felt the same way. We actually haven't had a conversation about it. So that's interesting. We'll have to.
Well, social audio across other channels is coming out. Twitter already has it. You know, I mean, LinkedIn has been working on it even before Clubhouse came out. And I can tell you, as being a LinkedIn person, as soon as it comes out, I will not probably ever go on Clubhouse again. And I will be on LinkedIn because that only makes sense.
Thank you. And that's my whole point. I mean, that's why when people come to us and are like, oh, do you do TikTok advertising? Do you this, that, and the other? It may be here to stay. However, what we've seen over and over and over again is that somebody usually buys something out and puts it into their own base.
Right.
Facebook and Instagram, LinkedIn, and now LinkedIn's going to do LinkedIn podcasting, which will overtake Clubhouse. So like, I'm always like I guess I'm traditional, even though I'm younger, in the way that like, I'm like always wait and see. Like, let's not rush.
I'm the same way. I think a good marketer always is in wait and see mode. I think it's why we always, when people ask us a marketing question, our classic answer is it depends.
It depends.
Because it depends on so many factors. I think we always A/B test everything. Certainly I was going to pay attention to Clubhouse. I'm not going to be like, no, but I also didn't like jump on the bandwagon either.
Yeah.
And then I had to start setting boundaries for myself. And
yes,
you
do. We cannot be on 26 different social platforms 7 days a week. I mean,
that's what I teach my clients. I'm like, you can't be everywhere, nor do you want to be. Your audience isn't everywhere. That's why you need to know who your target audience is and where they live. Yes.
Where do they want to communicate with you? Yeah.
So we have a great question here from Heather. In terms of podcast transcripts, does sharing them as show notes help SEO? I've heard different schools of thought. Thanks. I've heard different schools of thought on that too. So what do you have to say about that, Brooke?
I would say it does because so Mark and I put out show notes that's not an actual transcript. Mark puts it on the Businesses Grow blog as like a blog that has the podcast embedded into it.
So say that again. So on the blog,
on Mark's blog,
the Grow Business blog. Okay, at the bottom. Okay.
A blog post for the show, gives it a title and, writes some stuff, has content, but it's not a transcript. And then, what am I trying to say? Embeds the show in that post.
Okay. Now,
Chris Penn, who I've mentioned a few times, does a few different podcasts. And he uses an artificial intelligence tool called Otter, AIOTTE.
I've heard of that.
AI, which will turn your show into an actual transcript. And then they zhuzh it, they clean it up a tiny bit.
Like zhuzhing your hair?
Zhuzh. Yeah. They zhuzh it a tiny bit because it doesn't get it right. It's not a perfect science. It doesn't always get it right. And especially with my high-pitched baby voice, I feel like it has a hard time understanding what I'm saying a lot of times. So I tried it out once and I was like, that is not what I said. But anyhow, he does that. And if Chris does it, and his company provides SEO services, I would say it definitely helps.
Well, the podcast that I do listen to with people who, I really highly respect, I'll do it. My VA is suggesting now that I do it for these because I can also turn these shows into a blog and use this content, in a way that creates a blog or something like that. So I'm giving it a shot. Heather, I'll keep your question in the back of my on my radar, though, and I'll report to you over time if that's going to be working for me. And this is not a podcast. This is a webcast that I do LinkedIn Live, twice a month. Thinking about doing it every week, but I'm not sure. I'm kind of like in the every other week. That's one reason why I don't want to create a podcast, because I didn't want to be married to that.
Yeah, it's a lot of work.
It is a lot. It's a shit ton of work.
Yes. Well, and also, one thing I want to say about transcripting things, it's inclusive. Not every, there could be visually impaired or hearing impaired people who can't hear or watch this. So if we want to be inclusive, and if we're talking about, being inclusive in our DEI efforts and all of those things, then it's just one more way to ensure that you're reaching a broader audience with your content.
Right. All right. So here's the URL to get to the Marketing Companion. Are you guys on a regular time, same day, or does it bop around?
We record every other week. And so the recording happens one week and then it gets published the following week. So it just got published this week. We're recording next week. So the publish will come out again the following week. It's not helpful at all.
Okay. So you can get to it from that page on your website.
Yeah, you can get to it from there, and also businessesgrow.com, which is Mark's site.
Okay. All right. Great. So how are some other ways that people can connect with you or get in touch with you if they have further questions or anything?
Yeah, so I would say visit our website, bsquared.media. It's a .com. And you can probably also Google B Squared Media. There are a ton, by the way, of B Squared
I noticed.
out there. Oh my gosh. Mark actually sent me one from Florida when he was on vacation. It was a hamburger place. He was like, oh, I see you're diversifying. It was like,
well, and the reason it is because it's Brooke B. Sellas, right? Your middle initial is B, so that's why you do it.
Previous to getting married, I was Brooke Ballard. And my nickname was B Squared. And
I didn't know that part.
Yeah, so I had a nickname, B Squared. I had a lot of nicknames. Brookie Cookie, Brooklyn, and B Squared. And I figured B Squared just sounded a lot more professional than like Brookie Cookie Media.
Well, Heather listens to your podcast. I think you actually.
I know Heather.
Yeah, you know Heather. You met Heather at Agents of Change.
Yes, from Agents of Change. Shout out to Rich Brooks. We love you. Yeah, so you could also Google my name. Sellas, believe it or not, is like the easiest Greek name on the planet. And thus far, I have not found there to be another Brooke Sellas. So you could just Google Brooke Sellas and all my stuff will pop up.
And I'm sure you wouldn't mind if they connect with you on LinkedIn.
Absolutely not. Definitely connect with me on LinkedIn.
If you do connect with Brooke on LinkedIn, let her know you connected and through my Coffee with Kate.
Yes, and be sure to send Kate a note on how fabulous my LinkedIn profile is. Oh my God, that was hard. I mean, I don't know.
It is hard. It is hard. I mean, it's one of those things when you get past like the about section and the writing piece, then the rest of it really falls into place easier.
But like I kept telling her, like, this is so hard. I hate this.
Well, you know, it's funny that it's actually good feedback for me because I'm rethinking. I think I told you before we were on that I'm doing a rebrand. I'm doing a new logo, doing a look and feel, but I'm also going to be adding some new services and really kind of I'm scaling my business basically. Mm-hmm. And one of the things that I keep finding with, you know, basically 50% of my clients is that writing that about piece is the hardest part. And the reason I don't do it for people is, first of all, I used to, and I couldn't sustain it because I can't write otherwise I'll just be editing to the cows come home.
Right there. Yeah.
Right. But the main reason I have people write a first draft is so that I can capture their tone and their voice, because it needs to be their tone and voice coming across through the narrative in their LinkedIn profile. Mm-hmm. And even if that first draft is horrible, then I will rewrite it, but at least I'll have had that first initial sort of like the way they talk about themselves. And then I can use that as a foundational to help them. But that's always the hardest part with everybody. And I'm going to have to come up with some kind of a way to offer that as I scale a done for you part. Or
you'll need writers. And I can give you some recommendations. But
okay. Well, that's a great conversation for after the fact.
Yes.
Well, first of all, I want to thank you for having coffee with me today, Brooke. I appreciate it very much. Would love to have you on again sometime. Maybe have you and Mark on together. That might be fun.
Oh, that would be fun.
Yeah.
We are totally goofy together, which people
I know you are.
Appreciate.
Which was what makes it so fun. So thank you so much, and I wish you well. Oh, is the Hello Conference something that you want to tell people about?
Yeah, sure. If you head over to our website, you can see the Hello Conference, which it looks like it's actually happening this year. We didn't get to have it since 2019 because of everything, but it's going to be happening October of this year. So in the fall, October 21st, Hello Conference. Our clients come, a lot of our friends come. I think Kate's still planning on coming, I hope.
I might have a con.
Oh no! Anyway,
Yeah, it's a big deal conflict. But
Jennifer, our friend who we mentioned, is going to be one of the speakers. But we bring in our goal is to try to bring in the best and brightest minds in marketing and have them tell you what is going on. So our keynote this year is Matthew Sweezy from Salesforce, and his book, The Context Marketing Revolution, will be given to everybody, and he's going to do a book signing. And if you have not seen any of his research or him talk, I mean, you are in for like literally a mind-blowing presentation.
Awesome. Well, and it's in New Jersey. So for those of you who are watching here in Vermont or in the Northeast, that's an easy place to get to. And it's supposed to be at a really cool spot too, right?
Yeah, it's at this really cool, like old horse farm that's been converted into it's a big wedding spot, funnily enough, or an event spot. Yeah.
Cool. Well, thank you again, Brooke.
Thank
Please
you.
stay on after we stop the broadcast so that I can just follow up with you in the back end. And again, thank you all for watching. Thank you all who are watching the replay. Please feel free to leave any questions or comments, and we will get to you. Just tag me or Brooke, and we'll be sure to answer them, whether you're on Facebook or on LinkedIn Live. So thanks again, Brooke.
Bye.